What's up everyone? In this video we are talking about how to get a response from clients outside of Upwork when you're cold emailing or when you are sending messages through LinkedIn or Facebook or any other place. That's what this video is about. If that's what you need, keep watching. For those who don't know me, I'm Lex DeVille, and on this channel we help people escape corporate prison and build a freelance empire. We share lots of freelance writing tips and tutorials, so if you're new, consider subscribing. In this video, we're talking about getting a response from freelance clients when you are trying to do client outreach by cold email, by sending messages through LinkedIn or other social platforms, or any other way that you might try to reach out to clients. And the reason I wanted to bring up this topic is because we just talked about it in the Devil's Pen, which is my private email newsletter where we teach people copywriting and you guys get to learn copywriting from me and all that stuff. I'll leave a link to that below. There's still an ad for it somewhere on the Fastlane forum. Anyway, what we were talking about was getting a response. Direct response copywriters, they often try to write emails. They try and write these outreach messages, and whenever I get these, I usually just delete them immediately. Sometimes I read through them though, just to see what they say. What was their approach? Was there any value in it for me at all whatsoever? And what I find most often is that the answer is no. They get my email from some list and they take that email and then they just send me some spam message that I don't care about, so I don't respond. And these emails and these outreach, it's the same thing on LinkedIn. I get spam messages on LinkedIn. I never respond to this stuff. Never ever in a million years. I would never respond to this. Nobody will ever respond if you just send a message that is a cold email where you're just promoting your services, saying, hey, if you need this, reply to me. Anything like that, nobody's going to respond. So direct response in regards to marketing, in regards to copywriting, the bottom line about direct response is that your goal, your single individual only goal with direct response is to get a response. This is really, really important to understand because until you have a response, you have no open communications. And the way I explained it in this email or in my private list is that it's kind of like how a door-to-door salesman operates. When a door-to-door salesman shows up at your door, he's going to knock, he's going to ring, and you're either going to answer it or you're not going to answer it. And if you don't answer the door, then there's no response. The door-to-door salesman gets no response from you, so he just leaves. He goes to the next house. However, if you open the door, or even if you shout through the door, go away. But if you open the door to tell this person to go away or to tell this person that you're not interested in, then you've responded. And because you've responded, you have opened the communication lines. You did that, not the door-to-door salesman. The door-to-door salesman just put something out there. He just did something. He knocked. You open the door. Now you have a chance to communicate, right? So if you're sending emails or if you're sending outreach messages that don't do anything for the other person, if they don't get a response, then they're ineffective. And if you're sending those and you're spamming those and you're not getting responses, then that's not very useful for you. And even when you are getting responses, if they're hate responses, that's not really that useful either when it comes to internet marketing. So you want a good response, but what we want ultimately is a response. The door-to-door salesman wants a response because once you open that door, then you have a chance to talk to him. You're going to tell him to go away. He's going to say, okay, but would you happen to have a restroom I could use? Or, but could I use your restroom first? He might position it something like that. Why does he do this? Well, because it's clear that he's out there running the streets. He doesn't have easy access to a restroom. You feel bad for him, and so maybe some people let him inside to use the restroom. Obviously, you have a restroom, so it would kind of make you feel like a jerk if you didn't do that. Now, I'm not one who's going to let someone into my house to use the restroom, but I'm highly familiar with persuasion tactics. And so the people who do let him in to use the restroom have given him permission to go one step further with his communication. So when he comes out of the restroom, maybe he asks for a glass of water. And when he does that, and if you oblige him, if you give it to him, you've given him more permission to go one step further. He takes that glass of water, he takes a sip, maybe he asks if he can sit down while he drinks it, so you let him sit down, and now he just talks with you. He asks more questions. He asks about your home, or he points things out. He tries to create rapport, and then he brings it all back around to his subject matter, the thing that he's trying to sell. Eventually, maybe after you've had enough communications with this person, you've been informed enough that you change your perspective. Maybe you actually need this thing that he's offering. Maybe it's not that bad of an investment after all, and so maybe you buy. Or maybe you're just sick of this person being in your house and you just want to get him out of there, so you buy. In either case, it all started with a response, and that's the point I wanted to make here, is that when you send outreach of any kind, when it's a cold outreach, your first goal is to get a response. And to do that means you need to say things in that email or in that outreach message that are going to get the client to respond. Now, you want to do this in a way that doesn't get them to respond angrily. Because that's just not that effective. And I can't think of any time when I've ever responded in an angry manner when I would have opened communication lines back up through a cold email or any outlet like that. But you need to open those communication lines. So when you're writing these messages, how do you do that? The way you do that is by coming across as a real person, as somebody who genuinely has an interest in this other person, or genuinely wants to create value for this other person in some way. There can be no sense of me, myself, and I in that message. There just can't, because people will not respond to it. One time I reached out to a company, and I cannot remember the name of the company now. It's a men's brand. They do deodorant. They do other type of men's products. I wanted to reach out to this company and talk to them about copywriting because they didn't use any storytelling in their products. So how did I reach out to them? Did I reach out to the head of the company, the owner, and say, hey, I'm a copywriter and you don't use any copywriting, so I thought you could use my services. Hit me back if you want that. No, I don't say that. That's not at all what I do. Instead, what I said was something along the lines of, hey there, I use your products and I really enjoy them, and then I asked some question about them. I can't remember what I asked, but all I know is I talked about how I use the products, I really enjoy the products, I like the products, here's what I like about the products, and I just have this one question. And I asked a question, and it wasn't a question about copywriting or storytelling or anything like that. It was just a question about the product. Why did I ask that question? Because I knew that the founder of the company would respond. That's who I was emailing. So did he respond? Yes, he responded because he wants to keep his customers happy. He responded and he answered my question. And from there, we had connected. We had open communication. We had started to create a dialogue. So now we have a back and forth scenario. If he hadn't responded at all, I would have no chance to ever get more and more permission to get to the point where I could ask him about copywriting, or where I could say, hey, you don't really have any storytelling, and I would enjoy learning the story behind these products. By the way, I do write copy if you're ever interested in that. You get to that point at a later on. That's not where you start. You don't start with selling your services when you're trying to get a direct response. You start by getting a response. Any response is better than no response, and the closer you get to the response you want, the better off you are. Now, if somebody seriously has a problem, if they seriously have a deep need of your services and they recognize this need and they've been thinking on it, then you might be able to send a message that's a little bit closer to the sale and get a better response that way. But for the most part, if you're going in flying blind, if you're going in on LinkedIn messages and connecting with people you don't know, or if you're sending cold emails or you're going through Facebook or however you're doing that, then what you need to do is focus on the relationship first, because people don't start out in the buying phase. They start out in like a discovery phase. They have to become aware of a product or a service before they can gather information on that product and service, and then ultimately before they can move to other phases and then buy. You have to have awareness of where this person is in relation to you. If you don't have a relationship, you're not going to get them to buy from you. That's just not going to happen. You're not going to walk up to someone on a street or in a bar or in a restaurant and just be like, hey, let's kiss, and they're just going to start making out with you. That doesn't happen. There has to be connection first. You have to get to know each other. You have to build up to it a little bit, and it can happen fast. It doesn't have to be slow. You can meet somebody and then be kissing them by the end of the night. That happens sometimes. And you can send an email and have a client by the end of the day. That happens sometimes. But you have to understand where the client is, and then you have to meet them where they are. First step is to get a response. And the way you do that is not by sending direct sales messaging. It's not by using financial copywriting or any kind of like Agora style where you're trying to elicit a direct response, by saying all this stuff. It's getting inside their head. What do they actually need to read from you? What would they actually be likely to respond to? What kind of person would they actually be likely to respond to? And what would that person have to say in order to get them to respond? First step one is get a response. After that, you're going to try to get another response and another response and another response, and you're building the relationship along the way. You're giving them more and more information about you as you go, but not sales information. You're giving them insight into who you are and a little bit about you, and you're just creating conversation through back and forth, some questions here and there, making statements that they can open up to or agree with, and you're getting permission one step at a time to move closer and closer to the sale. And then when they're finally comfortable with you and they've lowered their defenses and they realize that they have a need for your services, and then you bring that up, all of a sudden they can then be open to working with you. And that's how you get a response, through cold emails, through LinkedIn, through Facebook, through any other place when you're not necessarily using the phone, or even if you are planning to do phone calls, it's the same thing. You would still go through the same process. Just the end result is that you're trying to get people to get on a phone call with you, to schedule a phone call with you. So start where the people are. Meet them where they are. Realize that they're just going to be put off by you spamming them messages. You have to custom tailor your message, and it has to be a message that doesn't instantly raise their defenses. Like when someone knocks on my door, a door-to-door salesman knocks on my door, that raises my defenses instantly. And my heart rate shoots up and I get really annoyed, and I don't answer the door because I don't want that kind of communications. But for other people, they have a different response, and they will go to the door and they'll tell the person they don't want that stuff. So the first step is to figure out what you have to do, what you have to say to get a response. And it has to come across authentically. It has to come across naturally. It has to feel like you're legitimately curious or interested. And if it doesn't feel that way, they're not going to respond. So even if you ask a question about a product or service, if it comes across in any way, shape, or form as you trying to promote yourself or you trying to sell them something, they're just going to shut down and they're not going to respond. So if you want a response, you have to be authentic. You have to do your research, look into these people a little bit, and then figure out what you can say that they are most likely to respond to. And that's all there is to it. If you have any questions, drop them in a comment down below. Thank you so much for watching. If you want more videos like this, let me know. Subscribe, click the get notification bell. And that's all I got for this one. Thanks again. I'll see you next time.